It's Women in Manufacturing event. You should go get some.
I know, I was just going to snap one and take it off. He's so funny. That was good.
I have one of those. So weird. All right. So we're going to finish up chapter 6, and then we'll do questions on the study guide for chapter 7, take the quiz, and do chapter 7. All right. All right, so if you remember, we talked about basically the 2 ways you make bone, the types of bones, and the types of bone tissue. And so what we had left to talk about was bone remodeling, fracture repair, and aging a little bit. So one of the stranger things about your bones is, despite what they may look like, they're constantly being broken down and rebuilt, which seems like a very strange thing to do. And it's actually 5% of your bone tissue is being remodeled at any one time. So right now in your skeleton, 5% of it's being broken down and rebuilt. Do what?
So you never have like 100% all your bones built up?
That would be true. Yeah. Since it's being remodeled, you never have the completely solid bone tissue everywhere. And when we're saying 5%, it's more like microscopic places all over the bone. So it's not like you're remodeling, down here and all of a sudden there's a piece that's missing, and if you hit it right, it'll snap or something. It's more like microscopic 5%. So you shouldn't be losing too much strength there. And that's not what I'm trying to. So what's the purpose? Replace damaged bone, but most importantly, your new bone is stronger than the old bone. So as that bone you built sits there, it starts getting weaker and weaker. So if you didn't do this, by the time you were like 6 years old, all your bones would be brittle like you're a 100-year-old person, which would be terrible. So this is why we're always replacing it, because those mineral salts, they just don't last all that long before they kind of come apart. All right, so let's take a look at this process. We're zooming in.
The density of bone is modulated by a group of cells including osteoclasts, which are multinucleated cells that resorb bone, and osteoblasts, which refill the resorption cavities created by osteoclasts. Osteoclasts anchor themselves to the surface of bone. This creates a microenvironment underneath the cell, which is referred to as the sealed zone. Within this zone, the osteoclasts create an acidic environment that dissolves the bone's mineral content. Once the mineral content of the bone has been dissolved, enzymes released from osteoclasts remove the remaining collagenous bone matrix to complete the process of resorption.
So what did they take away first? What part of the bone? So like the calcium salts. And then after that part's gone, then they send those enzymes in to break down the collagen part. Which remember, those are the two main parts of the ECM in bone, crystallized mineral salts and collagen.
Following resorption, osteoblasts move into the resorption space and start to produce and deposit organic matrix called osteoid. Osteoid, a substance made predominantly of collagen, forms a scaffold in which minerals including calcium and phosphate begin to crystallize. Some active osteoblasts become trapped within the matrix they secrete and thereby become osteocytes. Other osteoblasts will undergo apoptosis or will revert back to lining cells which cover the surface of bone.
I think
This
that's it.
cycle of bone resorption and formation is referred to as remodeling. There is also a process where bone formation by osteoblasts.
All right, I think that's enough. We don't want to get into anything too confusing. So one thing I noticed on there that maybe we didn't talk about last time is those osteoblasts. Did they secrete? What did they secrete? What molecule? So they secreted collagen. Did they secrete the mineral salts too? They didn't. So it's probably not all that important, but they secrete the collagen, and the collagen basically has binding sites or certain shapes that attract the mineral salts, cause them to crystallize. Kind of like, did y'all ever make that sugar candy, rock candy stuff back in like second grade or something? So kind of like that. You put your like string in there, the string will be the collagen, and it provides a place for those crystals to grow. So
If the osteoclast dissolves all that, where do the new cells come from?
So it kind of dissolves them and puts them back into the solution, like the water that's around.
It doesn't bring them into the osteoclasts don't bring the minerals into the cells. They just
They may some, but then they'd release them back. That's a good question. So yeah, part of what you have in your serum of your blood floating around is calcium and phosphorus. And if it finds that collagen, it just kind of grabs onto it and crystallizes. All right, so one really interesting thing that I actually didn't know about before I was teaching this class is that the more stress you put on the bones, the stronger they become. So kind of like what doesn't kill the bone makes it stronger. And so one of the ways you can do this is exercise, especially like weight training exercise. So something you learn in kinesiology, take it, is if you're lifting weights that are about 50% of your max. So if like the most you can do is lift 50 pounds over your head, if you lift 25 pounds over your head a whole bunch of times, that's actually causing the bones to grow back stronger, which is pretty cool. So it's not just your muscles getting stronger, but your bones getting stronger as well. Walking, running, all those things help sort of the lower limb bones get stronger too. And that's because those osteocytes can tell that bone's being tugged on, and they'll actually cause more collagen and mineral salts to be deposited in that bone. So it becomes denser. The denser it is, the stronger it is. All right, so based on that, why do you think doctors tell older people to do more exercise, like walking, jogging, moderate weights? Oh, whoops. Let's put it back up to 6 like it should be. All right, so when you chat with your group there, looks like we're tied between D and E there. All right, final votes. Secret ballot here. All right, so we got a bunch more E's there. E is the right answer. So I didn't mention C, but C is true.
I thought you just said the osteoclasts don't deposit the mineral salts.
Oh, yeah, I shouldn't write it like that. You're right. Well, yeah, that's true. Whoops. It's my whoops moment. Because technically, yeah, just like I was saying, they do deposit the collagen and the mineral salts follow. Osteoblasts don't actually put them down. So I'll make sure to fix that one. And also, if you're sedentary, if your bones aren't getting stressed at all, osteoclasts get more activated. Can anyone think of a reason why your body, why this process exists in terms of like sedentary, you break them down more. If you're really stressing those bones, they build them up more. Like, why would your body do that? Any ideas?
What was the question?
You can't point other people out. I was just wondering why our body does this. Like, why not just make them, your bones, super strong to start with? They might be, too heavy. And also it takes, a lot of energy and nutrients to build those bones. So if you're not using it, the body's like, all right, we don't need to worry about using our energy to do this. We can just focus on using that calcium and ATP for other things. Whereas if you're using them, it can kind of say, all right, well, they're being stressed, they're being used, we need to expend energy and resources to build those up. So in that way, it kind of adapts. So it can adapt to how much you weigh, how much you're exercising. It can just adapt to be the right amount of strength. It's kind of a trade-off. All right, so fracture. How many people have broken things in here? So about 30% or so. So the repair process, because obviously our bones are pretty good at repairing themselves. For most breakages, all you have to do is stabilize it, keep the ends of the bones where they should, and then this process will take care of the rest of it. unless it's a really severe compound fracture and then, more intense surgery or something. And even getting screws put in, all that is screws holding the bone where it should go. It's not like you're stitching the bone back together or something. The bone can do it itself. So there's 4 steps. We've got reactive, which is the inflammatory phase, reparative, which kind of doesn't turn into bone right away. It's a fibrocartilage. And then there's a bone remodeling phase. We'll see that on here. So if you remember, your bones do have lots of blood vessels in them to supply that marrow and supply the cells of the bone. So if you do break your bone, there is blood that's going to come out. So you get a hematoma, you get a clot. And then the first step to repair it is to make a fibrocartilage callus, or it's really just a scab, but inside your body on the bone. Then you replace the cartilage with bone, and then you remodel it a little bit with those osteoclasts to get it right back to how it was before. So kind of like how when we built the bone, we put trabecula in it, and then we broke them down. It's kind of the same thing that's happening if you're repairing it. So trabecula area, and then break them down so you get back to how the bone used to be. How long did you all have a cast on for? Any of those bone breaking people out there? 4 months? 4 months? Oh. 6 weeks. So it doesn't take all that long for it to get all the way to this point. And certainly a fracture is less severe, so it can heal faster. So really, you're probably keeping your cast on at least until this process is done. Probably doesn't have to be on there until it's already completely remodeled, because now it's bone again, should be strong enough. Anybody break ribs? Anybody break a rib out there? No? That one's the worst because they can't stabilize it. Because if they stabilize it, then you can't breathe and you get pneumonia. So you just get to just walk around. Every time you cough, breathe. I've had friends with broken ribs, and they said it was just the worst thing. If you laugh, it's like the most painful thing in the world. If you turn,
Any basic movement.
Yeah, that's what I don't want to break.
Right.
I'd rather break fingers, legs. That all sounds better than ribs to me. Or nothing. Or I could break nothing. That'd be better.
Nothing.
Yeah. So as you age, your bones become less strong. I'm sure everybody knows that. Much higher risk of fractures after you get into your 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. And basically what's happening is the osteoblasts are depositing less collagen. If there's less collagen, there's going to be less calcium salts. And especially in women, once that estrogen goes down after menopause, they tend to get, because estrogen promotes osteoblasts depositing collagen. So when you run out of estrogen, now the bones are going to be remodeled, but not as strong as before. So kind of the osteoclasts are more active than the osteoblasts. So that's what osteoporosis is. All right, so what do you think estrogen does to cells in the bone tissue? So this would be like in a younger person. All right, so why don't you talk to your group there, and then we'll go over it. Um, All right, so what do y'all think? So it is E there. So estrogen makes osteoblasts more active and osteoclasts less active. So do we B and C? So it promotes a stronger bone, basically. So when you lose estrogen, it becomes opposite. Your osteoclasts become more active than the osteoblasts. You start losing bone mass there. Right. What's 2 and 3? I quit. Apparently I didn't have any extra assignments from last time to look at. Oh yeah, the fracture repair. All right, good. So go ahead and just try that one with your group, and then we'll go over the answers there. Yeah.
Like right there.
Sure.
Maybe my stuff's not working.
Oh, I know. I've got a copy of.
Yeah. It's the cervical lumbar. Or the, yeah.
No, I was looking for one myself, actually. But here's the. Here it is up there. So,
When my brother gets here, he's gonna come pick up my part.
okay, sure. You don't have to tell me, it's fine.
Anyway, for the, I just numbered them on the side. I 4, 5, 3, 1, 2. So A is the first step. B is the fifth. C is the third. D is first. And E is the
We have a test on Thursday? Yeah, because we just got the 7 and 8 to do.
Are you surprised by that?
I don't look that far ahead. Next week. Next Thursday.
This is not that much preparation that you need to do.
That's true.
So we're going over 2 chapters on Tuesday?
No. 7 today, 8 on Tuesday. And they're short. These are easy chapters. All right, so in interest of time, the answer is DECAB. Just write that down and look them up. So DECAB, if you want to look back at it. DECAB. DeCab.
Occur without prior bone resorption.
Any questions from chapter 6 before we move on?
The 5 regions and 4 curves of the vertical column.
Yeah. All right. So chapter 7, we'll go over this. Any questions on that for study guide? Then we'll take our quiz. So the first one is the 5 regions and 4 curves. This one's easier than you think. They're almost all the same. So the first 4 are the same. So the 5 regions and 4 curves of the vertebral column. So starting at the head, the most superior, it's cervical, thoracic, lumbar, sacral. So those are curves and regions. And then there's the coxial region is the 5th region on the bottom. So 4 curves, 5 regions. Yep.
Can you give me an example of, for B, letter E, like what kind of bone that would be?
A basic
Is that condyle?
Oh, you don't have to worry about where they are, just what they are.
Makes sense, like how it describes like what kind of bone it would be. I just didn't know like where that would be.
So the condyle is large round protuberance, and you can find it on top of the femur.
Like that goes into your hip.
Yeah, it would go into your hip. Yeah, so it would be the ball part of the ball and socket joint in your hip. Any others?
Do you know the quick description of all the features, focus?
For all those? Sure. So a fissure is a narrow slit. A foramen is just an opening. So like a bigger opening than the fissure and not like a slit, but maybe a little rounder perhaps. The sulcus is a furrow along a bone, so like kind of a long indentation.
It's an indentation.
They call it a furrow, but it's like if you had, I don't know if I can draw it really. I don't think I should draw it. I'm not going to be able to draw it.
It seems like they would like be all the same. Like I know that some of them are really different, but some of them it's like that could be.
Yeah, so that's why I just picked out like 7 of them instead of listing all of them. The meatus is a tube-like opening. Tube-like opening, so like a big hole.
Would that be like for a blood vessel?
Could be,
Blood vessel.
or your optic nerve, or there's different places. Yeah, sure. The condyle is the large round protuberance. Crest is a ridge. Spinous process is a sharp and slender outcropping like you have on your vertebrae. You may have seen those. And then the trochanter is a very large projection, which is actually the one I was talking about, the hip bone one. The ball, that's the trochanter. The condyle will be smaller than that. It's like a smaller ball of a ball and socket. So the trochanter is like the top of your femur up here. And then the condyle will be like a smaller ball and socket joint. Yeah.
Because it said knuckle, like it said something about a knuckle.
Anything else out there? All right, let's take our quiz. There's people back there.
I know, but they have it.
Don't be scared. Thanks. All right, let's go and pass that on up. If you're done.
Body arch or
All right, so which part of the skeleton is made of the arms and the legs? Is it axial or appendicular? It's appendicular. Not one of the 5 main bone shapes. Flat, short, sesamoid, or pointed. Pointed is not a bone shape. What's a suture? Connection between ribs, skull bones, facial bones, or nothing? Skull bones. And which bone surface is a rounded projection with a smooth surface? Fissure, sulcus, meatus, or condyle? It's the condyle. And not part of a vertebrae? Diaphysis, arch, body, or process? It's diaphysis. That's part of a long bone. Nothing to do with a vertebrae there. All right, so chapter 7. So in lab, we're going to play a lot more with the actual bones there. So we have axial and appendicular. This chapter is the axial skeleton. So basically, everything that's not an appendage or used to attach the appendages. So things like your hip bone is appendicular, or your shoulder blade is appendicular. Axial is everything else. So vertebrae, facial bones, skull bones, ribs. That's what we're working on today. So the two main types of surface markings, it's kind of obvious, I think. So there's openings and depressions, and they're there to let things through the bone. So blood vessels go in, nerves go in and out, things like that. And then the processes, they stick out, so you can attach things like ligaments, tendons, muscles. And if you notice, they both say form joints. That's because most joints, one bone has a depression, one bone has a process, they fit together. Kind of makes sense, right? And we do have a whole chapter on joints later. We'll get more into it. It's kind of weird. So for now, you just have to imagine the bones just floating around, magically attached together. It's kind of weird. So why do different bones have different markings in different places, do you think?
Different stresses put on them. Like tendons belong in different places.
Yeah. It's probably more detailed than before. So it's basically because the different parts of the bone need to do different things, like the function's different, which is kind of what you're saying. So like the ends of the bone, maybe they need processes to attach the ligaments. The middle of the bone needs some openings for the nerves and the blood vessels to go in. So it's all about their function. All right, and we're going to go pretty quickly through these because I want you all to get to your bone naming game that's sitting on your table out there. All right, so your skull has 22 bones, plus 3 ear bones, so that's 25 bones. And we could take a quick look at them here. This is a really cool link because you could use, and you could basically review all the bones, okay, and quiz yourself with them. So we'll go to the skull. To the cranial bones. And so what's neat about this is it doesn't label it right away, and you can just kind of say, well, I think that's the parietal bone, and then you find out, no, I was wrong. That's actually a occipital bone. So you can use this to quiz yourself on the bones really well. So we've got our frontal bone in the front, parietal bone in the back. The zygomatic bone is right here. So basically behind your eyeballs there. The sphenoid bone, I have a better picture of it in the PowerPoint in a second. It kind of forms the top of the roof of your mouth, and it goes up all the way to kind of below your eye. And I have a better picture of that one. Temporal bone, that's where your temple is. Ethmoid bone, lacrimal bone. So you've got quite a few sort of sinus bones behind. The nasal bone, maxilla, which is the top of your jaw there, occipital in the back, and the mandible down on the bottom. And then your hyoid bone, it's the only bone in your body that's not attached to any other bones. If you notice, it's just kind of hanging out there. That's what your tongue's attached to. It's just held in place by just being there. It's kind of interesting. So I just want to show you that. Obviously, you'll probably have to review that some on your own. This is the view of that sphenoid bone that I wanted you to show. So if you take a look at this picture up here, this is a transverse slice of the skull looking down. So kind of think about you're looking down on someone's head and you like sliced it open a little bit. And that's where you'd find the sphenoid bone. So it's kind of in the middle. So above the mouth, goes up to the eyes there. All right, so something interesting about the skull bones that everyone probably knows about. When babies are born, is their skull like all hard and formed? Or is there creepy, weird soft spots all over? It is really weird. And basically what those are for is it's got a few functions. First, it lets the skull be able to deform during birth, so it can fit through easier. And it lets the skull bones grow really fast, because that's one of the fastest things growing in an infant is their actual skull bones, because their brain has to expand so fast. So it gives them a space to expand. If you were just born with bone everywhere and no space, it'd be a lot harder for it to grow. So those are called fontanelles. So you might know what the last one to close is. Right, so that top one's there till 6 months to a year, depending. And of course, that's the one they could feel to see if the kid's infected. If they've got some infection, it'll swell. Kind of when things are always checking. There is a disorder that can happen where one of the fontanelles starts closing up too early before the head's expanded. And so they'll check on it. And if that happens, they have to go in and do like a tiny little surgery to break the connection so the bones can keep growing. It'd be like one of the bones was in the wrong spot, and then the brain would eventually get kind of squished, which would be bad. They thought that was going to happen to my son-in-law. My wife's sister's kid. So my son-in-law. I don't know. But it turns out he just has a weird shaped head.
Well, that kind of sucks because there's nothing you can really do about that. You can't really
I guess. So it is the anterior fontanelle up there. That's the last one to close. So it goes from, go back to that question. So after 2, they are replaced by dense connective tissue. So it's a very immovable actual joint between those bones in your head. Obviously, you probably thought your bones were fused, right? By the time you're like 5 or something, but there's actually still a little bit of give in it. So kids and really adults up to 30 are a lot more resistant to like a skull fracture than someone who's older, because it's still that dense connective tissue, so it can kind of absorb some shock without the bone actually snapping. But after you're 30, those sutures become bone. So it just comes bone to bone. So it's almost like you have just one skull bone all around. Because now it's just bone on bone instead of bone, connective tissue, bone. It's kind of cool. So technically, do you have sutures? Or I guess I should say, do I have sutures because I'm over 30?
No.
To be perfectly accurate, sutures are just the joints themselves when they're connective tissue. I think a lot of times it gets misused, though. They'll still call them sutures, even though they're bone to bone. But anyways. All right, so the thoracic bones. Everybody knows where your sternum is, right? Right there in the middle. So your sternum, that's where your ribs come around and attach. So you can see that right there. And zooming in a little bit, obviously your ribs are connected to your vertebrae in the back. They come around, and what's interesting about your ribs is there's a long portion of costal cartilage that connects it to the breastbone. So instead of like most bones, you'd think it goes, from bone to bone and attaches with tendons. Your ribs have a special segment of cartilage here, where it's cartilage instead of bone. A few other things. The true ribs are 1 through 7, and when we say true ribs, we mean they go directly from your backbone to the breastbone. And if you notice, what does like rib 8 do when it comes around to the front? So it goes up and connects to 7 first. So those are called your false ribs, because they connect to another rib first. And then what do you notice about these floating ribs, 11 and 12 down there? They have no cartilage. Do they even connect to anything? They don't. So they just call them floating. But they still give you, some protection, because there are still like a bone there. Do it?
I feel like those are a deformity, like they're just an accident waiting to happen.
Yeah.
Nothing to hold them.
What would cause you to have extra cartilage under your skin? Because like they've always said I have a lot of extra cartilage and it like pops in now. I don't know.
When does it pop? What are you doing when it pops?
Nothing.
Like anything?
I push it right now and it pops in now.
Huh.
I have, like extra cartilage like in my sternum somewhere, or like up here too, because it like.
I don't know.
There's
That's
like,
crazy.
stuff that's weird. It's like it hurts really bad, but it'll like take my breath away. It hurts. I don't know why.
Huh. Well, those cells that made that cartilage, those chondrocytes, you probably have some mutation that makes them more active. Isn't spurs usually made of bone, though? Bone spurs? That's interesting. I don't know, maybe you'd be extra protected from things. Maybe it's a good mutation.
No, it hurts. It pops all the time. Like someone will hug me and they'll be like, "Oh, I felt it."
No hugs. Leave me alone. I have extra cartilage. Don't hug me. I'm going to use that one. All right, so there's just your repeat. 12 pairs of ribs. All right, so here's a question for you. Why do you think the ribs are connected by costal cartilage and not just directly with, tendons, ligaments, or... All right, so I'll have you talk to your group, and I'll tell you that E is not the answer. It's not a trick question.
Not a trick question. It's a loaded question.
All right, final votes. Don't choose Z. All right, so if you chose B, you would be correct. And I want to warn you, if you Google this, it's going to tell you that A is right. Like answers.com, anything, but it's not true. Usually the internet's pretty reliable. In this case, it's totally wrong. And that's because, does cartilage stretch? It doesn't stretch. What's happening when you're breathing in is your whole rib cage is moving up. And it's just rotating at the joint. It's just moving up a little bit. The joint where the cartilage actually meets the breastbone. So you could actually have, if your ribs were just bone all the way around connected to the breastbone, you could still breathe normally because that joint would just rotate a little bit. So you don't actually need that costal cartilage to be able to move the ribs like that. Think about your arm. Look, is this cartilage connecting these two bones? These three bones? It's not, right? It's just bone to bone. And look how much I can move it. Same thing. So the only reason you have it there is so if you get any kind of shock to your ribs, to your breastbone, to your back, that shock can be absorbed by the cartilage because that's the function of cartilage. So you can still break ribs, and that's kind of another sort of mechanism because the whole point of this rib cage is to protect your heart and your lungs, right? So what you don't want is if you're taking a force from here, for that force to like smash your lung. So your first thing is the cartilage absorbs it, and if there's still too much, then it'll break the ribs, which takes a ton of force, right? But it kind of absorbs that force by breaking it, and it still would protect your lungs. And then especially your breastbone, like think about all those ribs attached to there, all that cartilage. You could take a pretty heavy hit like right there without anything. Definitely. Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially on like a kid, right? Yeah, because it takes a lot of force. Yeah. I have heard that. It's just crazy. How much force do you think you're putting in? How many? I don't know. So, I mean, it's like your whole body, right? When you're doing it. So, I mean, yeah, a couple hundred pounds. Really? Have you tried it on? Does it hurt? Does it break your ribs though too, the machine? Yeah. Huh.
It's like from 1 through 10.
Turn it up to 10.
Then you need some of it.
Yeah, then you'd need it. All right. All right, so we'll do our bone card game. If we have time to do the last part of the PowerPoint, we'll. Otherwise, we'll do it next time because Chapter 8's really short. So this card game, if you saw, you've got a stack of bones on your table somewhere, hopefully. Don't look at them. And so your stack of bones is all the ones on your study guide. So the ones you'll have to identify on your test, like where they are. And the way this is going to work, here I'll pretend I'm picking one up. So you're going to go through that whole stack 3 times, hopefully, at least twice. The first time through, you're going to take turns. One person picks it up, and they're going to describe it for you. And everybody else at your table is trying to guess what bone you're talking about.
So you can like bone charade.
Round 1, you cannot point to it. Wait, what did I write down? Yeah. I don't know. What do you think's easier? Pointing to it? Okay, so round 1 is words. Round 2 is pointing to it. Round 3 is drawing it on the table. And I have your instructions. You can play in teams of 2 if you want to be like competitive about it. You can make up whatever rules you want for it, but it's 1 person at a time.
We gotta see your little thing, don't we?
What?
See your study guide. So we gotta know what's wrong.
Well, you've got a study guide, right?
I ain't print it off.
Uh-huh.
I usually write them down.
It's all right.
You got one?
Oh, and the last rule, only the person looking at the card can use their book. And you're going to rotate around, so get like 1 book out. Here's some instructions. Do I?
So she'll describe it and any of us can point, right?
Yeah, and then you'll pass the stack over there.
Tell me what it is.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we gotta like.
Yeah, I'm just.
And we guess the
hmm
bone.
And the first time around, the first time through is probably going to be pretty hard.
Okay.
But by the 3rd time, it'll be like, yeah, I know these.
Okay, it's gonna be hard. Not,
To it?
it's gonna be hard not to like point. Like,
I know. Do y'all just want to split up so we can have a group of 4 there and you can come up here, be in the group?
Can we use our study guide?
Yeah, I mean, you can make whatever rules you want. It's fine.
We have another.
You have 1 more person coming over. Here's kind of the written down instructions.
No, like because she's the one like having the cards. She pulls one out and she describes it. We have to guess what bone it is.
Yeah, and the first time around, it's going to be hard because you don't really know. Well, by the 3rd time through, you'll get up. And if you need if you want to look at the list, that's fine.
Oh, you can.
You can make up whatever rules you want.
It's in your nose. How do I describe this? I've never even heard of this before.
They might have to just give up.
Alright. Starts with a D. Yeah.
I needed this.
I don't know where's the Vollmer?
It's like you said, it's like farther back behind the
That
nose.
green one you were showing us?
Was that on the thing? No, that was the other one.
It's like all the bones around here.
That's the sphenoid.
It's like on the bottom of your nasal cavity. No, that's
Let's pull this one out. Do I have that one on there? Oh, that's why it wasn't on here.
It's a roughly triangular bone on the floor of the nasal cavity. Yeah, but it's not your sinus. It's like the bottom part.
The septum's between your
Yeah,
nostrils,
so like the vomer would be like the triangle like on the bottom of your septum. This part.
like behind it.
Oh,
A little.
behind it?
Well, like not too far, but
Would it be like
it's not like here. It's like
back here? Like on
Yeah.
the roof of your mouth?
yeah, kind of.
Here.
Yeah.
So it'd be like the bone that connects your septum to like your hard palate?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Good enough.
I haven't gone over the second part of the study guide yet. That's how I remember.
I'm like just looking at all of them. Just like switch through it yourself and find one.
What? Just no. You gotta put them face down here, and you just have to take the top one.
Oh, okay.
No looking through them.
The back of the eye? No. Like right here, the eye. The eye socket.
It's one of those words that you'd think it'd be that. but it's not.
Tell me what it is.
You got it?
What is it?
It's the bottom of your head because this is a partial and then on here.
Right? It sounds like optical.
How do you say it?
Occipital.
Occipital. Okay.
Okay, what do you have?
Okay.
Start describing.
It's like.
Temporal? No.
Oh, so you're gonna put them face down on there and take turns picking up and describing them.
One by one?
Yeah.
Oh.
We like this sweet.
It's all right. Give everybody a chance.
Your press bump.
No.
It's like under.
Posterior. Okay. Usually break if you fall on your shoulder real hard. There you go.
Wait, no, it's not your shoulder blade. Right? Because your shoulder blade's back here. Your clavicle's like this one. Yeah. It's pretty, it's not very strong.
That's like
Sid.
your, what's this called again?
I don't know where you're playing.
Sorry, this is one again. I can't remember.
Back, right?
Yeah. That's,
Easiest bone to break in.
yeah, it's the same as clavicle. Yeah. That's why we're all confused. We're like, yeah, that's the one we're talking about. Well, you're right. Yeah, it goes like right there. I mean, I think your fingers are easier to break than your clavicle, though, right? Well,
They snap.
Because this is happening
Well, someone
yeah,
can
that's
just
true.
easily just with your finger.
Yeah.
But they can't just.
You were like, I'd rather break my fingers in my ribs, and then you smacked your hand on the table.
Yeah.
Like, oh, he's gonna break his fingers.
You got a hard one?
I'm so good.
Is it on the side or on the front? It's probably like on top. You want. That's your periodic bone is like a top. Yeah. Not page 190. But it'd be like on the front, right? Yeah, like oh, maybe not the same with you.
You're like, thanks.
Zygo.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? It's Did we take that one out?
I don't have it.
Where's the sphenoid? Sphenoid?
Sphenoid bone. Where do you think it is?
Well, it's like, it's right in here. It's like right in here.
Mhm.
Right in here.
Oh, the sphenoid bone. That's the one we were looking at on that picture. So it's like the roof of your mouth. It's like in the middle. It's like between your brain and your mouth, kind of, is how I describe it.
So it'd be like all this.
Except like farther inside. Do you know what I mean?
In the middle of your head.
Yeah, in the middle of your head, more or
Why
less.
do we have a bone in the middle of our head?
So that because we need a bone between our brain and our mouth, right? And it does come to your eye socket a little bit.
I see it.
But yeah, that's why I looked up that picture, because I feel like looking at it from this side is really confusing. Don't you think?
So it's like right next to the ear.
Yeah, you can't really tell where. If you look at it from above, do they? I don't think they have a better picture, do they?
Maybe this one?
Yeah, I guess that one sort of helps. That's in green still, right?
Okay, so this one is.
I can't tell which way they're looking. Oh, that's looking from below. Yeah, so you can see how it's like back your eye socket.
This one is attached to your forehead. From the bone.
I know, but I could not think. I put anterior, posterior. I was like,
Could think it was chrome.
But I know they're like the same thing, so I'm like,
Well, like for like part. There's a lot of them.
I don't know if starts with an S is a valid clue. Sounds like. Yeah, I don't know.
so are we gonna have to go all along?
Just the ones in the study guide. So I think we've got like 12 from this chapter and 12 more in the next one.
It was green when you had it up there.
And maybe a few more for the lab practical. We'll see, but no, not all 200.
We gotta know the feet. You'll make us know the feet.
Just the basics.
Cuneiform.
More basic.
More
Just
basic.
tarsal, metatarsal. Phalanges.
I almost said man.
All right, so once you get done with one time around, round 2 is just pointing. No talking. You just have to do your best.
Give those to me so I can stack them. They're all like falling in the same stuff.
No. Yeah.
Is the nasal septum
Uh-huh.
and the vomer the same thing?
Not quite. So the vomer is a little bit behind. The septum is the one that goes between your nostrils. Yeah, and the vomer's like,
That's what I have here. It's in the bone.
yeah.
I just remember it's just how Voldemort from freaking Harry Potter, you know how he doesn't have a nose. He just has like.
Does he not?
He doesn't have a nose.
Right.
Okay,
Ew.
it's Lily's turn.
Gross.
okay, it's part of your eye bone. Are you talking?
I was over here like.
It's like in the middle.
I don't have any of them.
Oh, that's the. Yeah.
We got that same one last time.
So this is round 2?
Yeah, no books.
No books?
Yeah.
And no words.
What?
Only pointing.
That's gonna be hard. What about the ones in the middle? Okay.
You just have to.
Nasal bone.
You can tell them if they're right or not.
Nasal septum.
Sephenoid?
Prominent.
And then behind that is
Temporal? Sphenoid? Is it sphenoid?
Wait, where's that one?
The gray. So where's the, since you got that, where was the one with,
Which one?
right now? Zygomatic is the cheek bump.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can tell people they have nice zygomatic bones.
The side.
Oh, it's the side?
So then what's the middle?
The vomer.
That's
The, oh, no, these.
Which one are you looking for? This one?
no, the
Oh.
nasal.
The nasal
Nasal
poncha.
poncha.
Mm-hmm.
Where is it?
It's like the sinus bone of your nose.
No.
Can't see where it's pointing.
This is the
Like this part.
We need a better picture.
Is that a bad picture?
One, right? They're like behind.
I don't know. I don't like that picture very much. It's kind of
It
hard.
says that this
Yeah,
one's the
well, these
concha.
are
It's like
hard.
the sides.
These are like even
That bugs me.
What about this
Better than the
picture?
middle one.
If you look here, I think that might help.
It's not on here.
We got the nasal bone, the ethmoid.
Yeah, the concha's not on here. Because it's like back. It's like behind. Because it's behind like your cheekbones. It like makes your sinus cavity, right?
Yeah. It's weird that this isn't in that picture.
Yeah, it's only. There it is. Like sits.
Hey, look, there's a skeleton picture right there.
Does it have one on that one?
Yeah, it's right here. It sits.
Yeah, so it's the side things.
Yeah, they're like back here. Yeah, they're like,
So the septum's in the middle, and then it's the side
they're not
pieces.
calling that your septum. They call it your vomer, and then they call it something else.
Yeah.
Up here, the
Which is the page?
perpendicular plate.
Right. Did I put nasal bone on there?
so the-
No. Okay,
Yeah, you
good.
did.
What am I looking over here? How come his looks different?
So this is the vomer. That bone right there.
C.
So the sides
The
of,
bottom part
what's
of
this?
this is like your septum is like your perpendicular.
That's
Your
it.
septum
Or is it all together?
So they're kind of like one.
Are they all
the
connected?
other bone? No, I don't. It's not connected. No.
Just know that it's the bone with the sinuses in it. That's the nasal bone.
That's the vomer.
Hmm.
So it's on the sides of the nasal.
Yeah.
So it's it forms your sinus cavity. Just
Basically.
that. Okay.
Yeah.
Mama face. Zygomatic.
Yeah.
He has like big old ears.
Okay, so for what we're doing, it says identify the following cranial bones on the anterior or lateral diagram.
Right.
Since the diagram, are we gonna label them?
Mhm.
Do we need to describe?
No.
Well, for this we have to, right? Kind
No,
of.
just on a diagram.
Okay, so we're trying to point them out.
Yeah. So like basically, I'll take one of these pictures and label a few bones. Yeah. And obviously, your book has a lot of extra bones that we're not like. You only have to know those. So.
Okay.
Our stack doesn't have the highway.
Oh, that's because you don't have to identify it.
Oh, okay. Well, it was up there. So
Yeah. I mean, I had it as a
Can you feel
definition.
it? Your high
I don't know.
Because aren't your tonsils covering it?
I don't feel like I can feel it. It's pretty far in there.
I was over here earlier, like trying to feel it.
You could probably. I mean, I bet if you did like this, you could feel it moving. But I don't feel like you can feel it.
Huh.
Now you're gonna walk around like
I know.
And you're at like so like this.
And so, because it's not really attached to anything, it's almost impossible to break it. I think.
I'm just gonna like slide all the way. Those are like. Okay,
This is the bottom of the elbow, right?
Occipital, frontal, and we just.
Yeah.
You're right.
That's your hypoid bone. Your hyoid bone is the one
No,
that
that's
sits
not
down
what I'm
there.
talking about.
It's the sphenoid is like what you're saying. It's the one between your skull and the roof of your
The
mouth.
one that's like inside, the one that he was talking about. Oh.
And you're right, the hyoid is inside too. It's lower.
Well, I knew that.
Yeah, so it's like, I don't know. It's like between your brain and the top of your mouth.
Do you remember that picture?
Like it comes between your.
Um,
It'd be like right here, like
I think they have another picture of it. And then if you want to look at, this is looking at it from below, and the picture in the PowerPoint's from above, so it's in green. So like there's the top of your mouth.
Does it? And on this, and it comes in on sides, like right here.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a tough one because you don't really see it, like on somebody's face. It's mostly internal. Yeah, a little bit.
So between the brain and the jaw.
Yeah, that's what I would say.
Behind here.
Or you're behind your eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like.
It's just behind your xylem.
Yeah, I think, do they actually have a picture of it taken out in the book somewhere?
Yeah, I thought they did.
I think they have a picture of it just by itself.
There.
Okay.
220 bed.
And what's
All right, so you are going to have a lab quiz due on Sunday night. I'm going to post it tonight or tomorrow. So don't forget, I think only 18 people took their lab quiz last time. Also, your other homework is to compliment someone on one of their facial bones or skull bones. Or insult. Bonus points if you insult someone with their bone.
Dear God, that fucking